playing some PSVR2. Yeah, you are playing Townsmen VR.
Yes, that is correct. It's funny, right? Because before the VR or PSVR 2 came out, I'm looking at all these games and I'm seeing like so many I want to try out, right? Obviously, I've never done VR before, so I was just, pretty much excited to try any and all games. But Townsman VR was sort of one of those like, oh, I'm interested and it looks sort of cool, and we'll sort of see how it goes. And fortunately, we were lucky enough to get a code and hopped in there. And first thing is it is I love the visuals. You know, I believe you were saying early, right? This is originally a
It's
mobile
originally a
game
mobile
that
game,
was
yeah.
sort of ported over, and like now it's a VR game. So it definitely sort of, I guess I could sort of see that. Um, but for me playing in VR, it has like a very diorama sort of feel to it, because the game is right, it's a simulator game. You are sort of I'm playing the campaign, so it's sort of ramping it up. Right, first you go onto a little island and it's like, hey, make a house, and like they introduce sort of how you play. And then as you go through, you sort of bounce around to new islands and you sort of have to build up the economy. There's obviously you got to get food, you got to get wood, stone, all sorts of stuff like that. And then you'll, build up your town. And then, as you continue to get further into the game, right, they start introducing some more military units, and you'll get attacked kind of thing and have to fend it off. But it has a very RTS feel to it, right? Like the good old days, which is it's actually funny, right? Like, were you a real time strategy guy on the PC back in the day?
Yeah, I loved Command and Conquer. I like that was. I remember when it came out on PC, I was getting like every version of that. I thought it was
Red
great.
Alert, bro.
Yep,
Mm,
Red Alert.
yeah, we had it was Command and Conquer, Red Alert. We played the crap out of, Warcraft 2 and 3, Starcraft. So it has that kind of feel to it, right? Different because you're not actively building up an army and going out and attacking, but it's more sort of right, you're building up your town and your island here. And then yeah, in some situations, yeah, you'll be fending off enemies, so almost sort of like a tower defense a little bit in that sense. But what's cool is, like I said, as far as the visuals go, they're not like, oh my god, they're definitely not realistic, sort of cartoony. But like I said, it's cool because it's like a little diorama, and the way the perspective is like you're almost like a god, right? Like you can move your characters around, you can literally pick them up. You've got a set of hands that you'll see, and it's funny, you got like little armor, gloves. And you could pick up your people and you sort of like, hey, I want you to go fishing, so I'm going to go sort of drop you over by the lake. I need you to get wood, right? So I'm going to pick you up and put you by a tree, and it'll chop the wood, and all that good stuff. And the way like you'll be moving is sort of like you almost like you're crawling around to move the camera. So like if you'll like in real life, right, I'll move my left hand forward and then I'll press down on one of the buttons on the controller, and then I'll pull that back. And it's almost like that's pulling my head forward. It's almost like you're like crawling around. It's a little strange to get used to at first, but it doesn't feel too bad. And then you can sort of pinch your hands in and out to just literally zoom, right? So you can have like a real, eagle eye perspective on the whole island. Like literally, you're above the clouds. You can actually grab the clouds and move them around, or you can zoom in real close, where you're literally eye level down by these buildings, and you can see your characters in a little bit more detail and all that stuff. So it feels really cool. I like the VR aspect of it. And actually, like no joke, my arms were getting a little tired on one of the bigger islands, like where you're sort of moving around a lot. But it is a strategy game, so there is some downtime where you'll just sort of be chilling too. Like for instance, one of the islands, like it's sort of like, hey, here's sort of like a laundry list of buildings. We sort of want you to build right now, right? So all right, I'm doing that, but like I have to wait for the trees to grow. So, waiting for a little bit there. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh crud, I forgot to build the wood saw, right? So I've got all this lumber, but it's not built, into actual lumber. So that was holding up my construction. So now I've built that, but now, now I'm waiting for all of my little people to grab the wood as it comes off the press and then walk it over to the buildings that need to be finished. So there is a little bit of downtime, but it's not, not too bad. I think with VR, maybe it's a little bit more noticeable, right? Because if you were, playing just on the TV, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm waiting for that guy to just sort of walk across the map and put, sort of finish that construction. Like, oh, let me just check my phone real quick, or something like that. But in VR, right, you're sort of locked in, so you're sort of just like chilling. But
I'd
yeah,
be
not
trying to pick them up and like
yeah, you could do a fat. Yeah, I was thinking
move.
about that. Yeah, hurry. Well, it's funny. You definitely like just as you're moving, right? Like you'll knock into your little people by accident sometimes. So all of a sudden, I'll be like trying to do, whatever, doing the objective I'm working on, and all of a sudden I hear like, and I'm like, oh no, and then like I'm looking like, where did I knock the guy into the water and he's drowning?
Can you flick them?
I don't. You know what? I don't know if you could flick them.
Oh,
I
that'd be
always pick
hilarious.
them up. You could toss them for sure. You can dunk them.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'd be such a like there'd be, what are they, epitaph, like they when they're mad at their gods or whatever, they'd be like burning effigies
Oh
of me
yeah,
because
yeah.
I'd be messing with them so much.
Yeah, you could definitely drown. Well, it's funny too because they had birds, or they have birds and stuff flying around, and seagulls. And I noticed, I'm like this one bird's flying down by my fishing area, where I've got my fish sort of stocked up. And he went down and he grabbed one right out of my storage.
Oh
So I
really?
so I grabbed the bird, and then he dropped the fish, and then I got an achievement for
That's
for
awesome.
stopping the bird. Um, but yeah, no, it's got a lot of really cute little things like that. It's charming, right? Sir Clunkalot is sort of like your guide, right? So he's telling you how to sort of like, hey, this is what you're doing. So it's funny, and like, yeah, when the enemy, or not, I mean, I guess sometimes enemy, but when like other people come to the island or whatever, they interact, like you'll see their head and they'll have a set of hands, so they'll be floating in the sky. But with VR, right, you can sort of go and like you can actually like poke them in the nose, and like they'll be talking, and then they'll be like, ugh, and then they'll like start their dialogue again, or like the one girl's like, excuse me. So some cute little things thrown in there, but yeah,
Yeah.
overall it's a cute little game.